How long does it actually take to learn a language? So let's break it down. What we got? If I told you there's a windy road and it goes up and down a mountain and then around the corner, and I don't know how long it's gonna take you till you get to your destination, but you'll get there, don't worry. You wanna take a walk down that path? Because probably not. But if you compare that to, okay, yeah, maybe it's a half an hour and then you'll reach a hut, and then another half an hour is a really nice view, and hey, when you get to the top, there's a party waiting for you. How about now? You might be way more inclined to go for it because you know what to expect. So learning a language is a little bit similar. But if you know what to expect along the way and know how long it's going to take you, it feels way better, and actually it makes you way more motivated to keep going. So in this video, I'll break it down for you and I'll give you some solid numbers so you have an idea of what that timeline looks like and make a distinction so you'll know what it is no matter what language you're learning. Hey, Genevieve here, language coach trying to help you learn a language faster and make it more fun. I've actually gotten a lot of comments and questions of people asking, can I call myself fluent? Like, do I know a language? And that's actually a legit important question because it's not like there's this line and when you cross the finish line after a certain amount of months, you just are fluent. So since there's no defined boundary, what is fluent? Fluent to me means you can have a conversation in that language with a native speaker, can feel relatively comfortable, and speak about most all everyday topics of conversation, as if you were just talking to a friend. So when you say, how long does it take to learn a language? I assume you mean to fluency, to fluently speak the language. However, I'm also going to break down how long does it take to become fluent, how long does it take to become conversational, and how long does it take to start having conversations, because each of these things are really important milestones in your language journey. So let's break it down. What we got? Bam, I made a graphic. You like my graphic? The correct answer is yes. However, this is a language channel, so what do the numbers mean? And really important, where is this information from? It is from FSI, or the Foreign Service Institute, who are the people responsible for teaching foreign languages to US diplomats and other government officials. So they are highly invested in knowing how to and knowing how long it's going to take. Oh, and by the way, these numbers are to reach a, quote, professional working proficiency, which in the way they describe it sounds like what it would be like when you're fluent. And while wanting to become fluent is a really great goal, there's actually something that this chart is not completely saying of what happens even before then. So how long it takes you to learn a language depends on three main factors. First question, which is really important, is what language are you learning? Now, these charts and these numbers are based on if you know English and how similar this new language is to English. For example, if you know English, there are some words in Spanish that you can recognize, like teléfono, right? Which is different if you're learning, for example, Japanese, and it's a different writing system, different sounds, different word order. Now I want to know how to say telephone in Japanese. Telephone. Oh, well, I can handle that. Oh, by the way, if you happen to use an app as part of your language learning journey, I did this masterclass on how to double, possibly triple, what you actually can remember and use and speak from the app. A lot of tricks that I used when I was learning a language that helped me learn it way faster. If you're interested, check the description. So let's talk about the third factor, and super important, and here on the fabulous graphic, amount of hours. Notice they don't have years or months to learn a language because it's actually not about calendar years or months. It's about how many hours are you putting in to learning that language. Another key factor that's going to make all the difference in the world in how fast you get through that timeline is the quality of how you practice that language. Actually, feel free to stick around and subscribe for tips on that, but it'll make a big difference if you are spending your time doing some service level, easy recognition activities versus taking the time to actually produce the language and speak, for example. And just to mention, it's not an exhaustive list of all the languages, of course. However, I'll link to more information in the description. It's easy for someone to look at this and think, oh my God, that looks like a lot of time. It's actually not. But even before then, even a couple months in, you will become what I call semi-conversational. More graphics. What up, graphics? What is semi-conversational? After just a few months of knowing a language, you can have some conversations. Not a lot, but be able to introduce yourself, talk about your likes, get around town, order food, things like that. Now, it's not anything Oscar-worthy just yet. However, if you were, for example, let's say learning French, and you could go spend a week in Paris and ask for recommendations for the best things on the menu and get around town and not get lost, and have a laugh with somebody. Isn't that valuable? I mean, I would sign up for that plan. I mean, where do I sign? Like, that's valuable too. And you can do that when you are semi-conversational. You don't need to know all the things. You just need to know some of the things. And that's a really important stage to look forward to. And that can actually happen after just a couple months, 3 to 6 to be specific, depending on the language and the factors we've been talking about so far. Hey, but wait, there's another stage. I call the next one conversational, where you can have a conversation. I know, right? Real deep. But what does that mean? Conversational is not fluent. Fluent to me is it flows. You can speak, you feel relatively comfortable. Most topics of conversation you feel like you can handle. Conversation means you can have a conversation, but one of these factors are in play. Either maybe your speech is a little halting and you have to sometimes stop and think about certain pieces. Maybe some pieces are missing. Maybe some topics of conversation can't handle them all, but you can actually have a decent amount of conversations with people, express yourself, and be understood. And actually, this stage is super valuable. And actually, comment below if you've learned a language before or have started along that path. What was it like along your journey? So while you might not be able to handle all types of conversations, you can actually talk about a good amount of stuff. You can talk about things that are going on and express yourself, especially about the things that are important to you and interest you. So actually, even before you get to fluent, you can call yourself conversational. And this happens if you take all the numbers from the fluent chart and cut them in half. Oh, woof, woof, is when you become more or less conversational. And this can happen after about a year, depending on the language and what you do with it. Oh, by the way, your timeline might not be a perfect, steady stream, exactly consistent every single day. And at least with me, with Portuguese, I ended up learning Portuguese in about 8 months. And that was with a slow start. So in the beginning, I didn't have a lot of time to dedicate to it. So it was like 10, 15 minutes. So my beginning of my chart was a slow road, not really going very far, very fast. However, in the middle stage of learning a language, it's like you unlock a secret level where things start to click, where you start to understand the language, where you can enjoy videos or movies or start speaking to people. And that's when things can really take off and makes a big difference. At least with me, and also if you have learned a language before, leave a comment, let me know how it was for you. Sometimes the beginning's a little slow, but then there's this shot of motivation. That's what I'm trying to say. And with motivation comes more time with the language. So I was watching way more, I was integrated into my day way more, I was speaking way more, and those hours seemed to come naturally. It didn't seem like work. So keep in mind, not all of these hours have to be study hours, like traditional hours that you might think of when it comes to learning a language. Some of these hours, especially at later phases, and depending on what you do, could be watching movie hours or talking and hanging out with friends hours. So while it might look a little daunting on paper, number, math-wise, it actually is not that bad, especially when you get to the middle and later stages of learning a language, because then it gets fun. So try not to think of where you are now. Try to think of where you will be, because you're going to keep going, right? Right? Going to keep going? Okay, cool. Glad that's glad that's settled. And also your milestones along the way. Yes, becoming fluent, but also conversational. Maybe having a couple conversations. Maybe even making somebody smile. All of those things are really worthy and valuable along the way. Now, what if your timeline doesn't exactly look like this timeline? Like, actually, that's pretty normal, but it's probably because of one of two reasons. One, maybe you're not spending amounts of time with the language, or number two, it depends on how you practice the language. For example, things such as just recognizing the language when you see it is very, very different practice than, for example, trying to produce the language and speak the language. You're trying to put different pieces together, remember it from your memory, speak on the spot. That, in terms of practice, the first one is very surface level, while the second one is a very high level activity. So when you're trying to learn a language, try to maximize the time that you spend doing higher level practice activities, and that'll help you get through the timeline faster. Another thing that really holds people back from getting through this timeline faster is trying to be perfect. And I get it, it's challenging. It's a language, it's new, you might not be sure about everything that you're saying or how you pronounce it, and that's totally normal. But if you are only practicing what you're totally sure about, then whatever you will know will end up being about this much, when what you could know, if you really tried to go for it, could be this much. So it's up to you. Now, what would you rather be able to do? Handle this much of a language perfectly, or know this much of a language imperfectly? Now, I don't know about you. Yes, it's tempting to want both, actually, is the real answer, but you can get there. But that's a big thing that holds people back. Don't try to focus on knowing everything perfectly or everything just right. Just focus on trying to practice as much as you can with whatever you know. And don't forget, if you just keep going, you'll get there. And check the description if you're interested in that webinar on how to double, possibly triple, dare I say quadruple, what you can walk away with from a language app by using it better, with a lot of tricks and hacks and things that I used when I was learning a language that helped me cut that timeline in half, by the way. So check it out. Oh, stick around, subscribe for more language learning tips on making it more fun to learn a language, how to get out in the world and speak, learn a language faster, eh? Amazing graphics, not to brag or anything. And happy language learning. Catch you soon.